would like to give the floor first to Sunne van Solm, all the way from South Africa, professor at the University of Johannesburg. And she will talk about gender dynamics, a case study of role allocations in engineering education. Again, let's keep in mind, allow me to remind that what we want to achieve through these various presentations is to see, where is there room for common work, what kind of future actions could be initiated also in terms of an action agenda. With that being said, and without further ado, Sunne, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much for the introduction. I just want to check if you can see my screen, just to make sure that you can see my slides. All right, yes. Perfect.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Sunne van Solm. I am a professor at the University of Johannesburg. I am actually in electrical engineering. So I'm at the Department of Electrical Engineering Science at the Faculty of Engineering, University of Johannesburg in South Africa. So I just want to share a few thoughts with you of our experience in engineering, being a woman in engineering myself. We did some research a while back. This was pre-COVID. So I want to share with you what we found within that study. And like I said, it's pre-COVID, so things have changed a little bit, although I don't think it has changed that much. So yes, so the talk is about gender dynamics, and we did a case study on role allocation in engineering education. So, I mean, I just Googled this, women in engineering, and I found so many pictures relating to how to get women involved in engineering at universities. You see this so often. There's so many programs, which I think is great. University of Johannesburg itself has a program like this, where we try and get more women involved in engineering, and we've seen some successes. So we've seen a little bit more uptake of women in engineering, but it's still quite low. So there's a lot of I think everybody have seen this research, where there's a lot of research relating to how experiences the experiences of women really impact their likelihood to stay in engineering. So not only in industry, but also their experiences at university itself. So this is the type of thing we wanted to go and have a look at, and it's just to see how women experience certain things. In this case, we looked at role allocation in teams. But what research tells us is enrollment doesn't mean graduation. Enrollment doesn't mean retention in engineering. And same thing, graduation doesn't mean that you end up as a professional engineer or an engineering professional. In South Africa, we have seen a massive underrepresentation of women in engineering. When you go and have a look at the stats from the Engineering Council of South Africa, where professional engineers register, we see the amount or the number of women is approximately 4%, which is a staggeringly low number when you look at the road of getting females interested in STEM. At the end of the day, we see about 4% of registered professional engineers in South Africa, which is a very, very low number. So these are just some of the things we thought about when we wanted to do this research. What we've done is we have a module in one of or in our course. This was, of course, pre-COVID, where the module is called Systems Engineering and Design. And what we've done is we participated annually in a competition called the Shell Eco Marathon, where student teams build electric vehicles. They race around the track, and we see how energy efficient a vehicle is. So it's a massive technical undertaking as well, because the students must build the cars. If you can see on the right hand side, there's a picture of the electric car that was built. And what we've done is we have 2 teams who participated out of the class, And of course, there's women students in these groups, and we try to see what are the roles that were allocated to them and what roles did they fulfill in this particular task and group. All right, so what we've seen in the preceding years is when we look at these groups in these really nice and technical challenges, we see that women tend to take up more supporting activities, whether it be organization, administration, those type of things. And then we said, okay, well, let's do a little bit of a more formal study to see, you know, is it just me perceiving that, or is it really what is happening? So we investigated the gender dynamics in the small groups of our students in the class, and we looked at participation and role allocation. So just to give you an overview of how the class looked like, we had 83 students in a class where 71 were male and 12 were female students around the age of 20 to 25 years of age. So what we've done is we've divided this whole group into two teams. So two teams building two vehicles. And then we subdivided these two teams called the alpha group and the beta group. We divided it into four smaller, what we called companies. And these companies had different roles. So MECO was mainly focused on the mechanics of the car, Energico on the energy source, the electric motor and those type of things of the car, logistics, systems engineering. So those were our four companies. And we've divided our groups randomly, although we did spread out our female students. So as you can see on the table on the right hand side, the column on the right hand, you can see that each group had one or two females. We couldn't make it more because then they would be grouped without ladies. So we distributed our groups randomly, and we then popped them into a room, and we told them to figure out who must do what within a classroom. And what we've seen is we told them, discuss in half an hour's time. I want to know who does what inside of this classroom. And what we found is from the 12 ladies, 5 were appointed to leadership roles, which included either being the CEO, which is just what they saw as the leader of the group. And the CFO was basically the person in charge of the finances of the group. And then there were 6 with supporting roles, which included secretary, HR, marketing, admin, those type of things. What was really interesting from the study is there were no lady students that either volunteered or were included in technical roles. So we had engineers, we had technicians, we had mechanics, we had safety, and all of those technical roles, not one lady took up one of those posts. So that was an interesting observation that we saw. Going to what we have seen from conversational participation, we saw some lady students really speaking up with confidence, really leading the conversation. So what this image shows on the right hand side is every block is one of the students, and then I just have a block called group. So that is when you speak to a group. And then just on the left hand side of the group block, there's the lecturer, that was me. So that's just me explaining something, because I was also present in the room. So what we did is we logged every conversation that a student had with a fellow student. We looked at the time of that conversation, or the time duration, and the solid lines between the students relate to above average time conversations, and the dotted lines are below average time conversations. So as you can see at the bottom, where the green lines flow out, that was one of our female students who was the CFO of this specific company. And as you can see, she was really, really confident. She talked to almost everybody, and she had above average length conversations with most of the people. And this was really an example where the student managed this whole session effectively of who is going to do what. So this was one of the very nice things we've observed. And the same with the second graph, where you can see on the bottom left, where our lines are colored, This was also a lady student. She was elected the leader, which we called in this case the CEO, and she just absolutely managed everything, and she was elected the leader of the group. She had conversations with almost everybody in the group, and she was elected to a leadership position. That was the one side of the coin. What we've seen on the other side, or the flip side of the coin, is a diagram that looks like this. So when you look at the 9 o'clock position in this graph, you will see F2 admin, which means it was the second female in the group. She participated and she took up the administration role. She had 3 conversations with 3 people, including the lecturer, that was me, and the CEO, which was the leader of the group. So that was really 3 below average length conversations, basically somebody keeping quiet. And one of the examples which we've seen is on the, maybe like on the 4 o'clock spot here. When you look at the graph, we have the first female, she was elected the secretary. She had 1 conversation, and the only conversation what she had was to put her hand up and say, I'll be the secretary. All right, so then you get those examples as well, where the ladies really kept extremely quiet in a group environment, relating to role allocation and what they're going to do. So, I mean, findings from the study, and I want to not go over my time.
Sunny, yeah, you're
is-
already slightly over. Just can
I
you
will,
please?
I've
Yeah,
got,
yeah. Did you
I've got
hear
3 left.
Did you hear the ball?
I did not hear it.
Okay, let's have to do
I
it live.
apologize. I
Sorry.
apologize. Yeah, so that is what we've seen. We've seen some students really fulfill leadership roles and active participation, although active participation did not necessarily lead to leadership roles. What was really interesting, and something that I want to conclude with, is that there were no technical students at all that were ladies. Not one woman was elected or volunteered to be an engineer or technician. So when we look at back to where we started and we say getting women in engineering, I think that's an excellent thing. But I think what is really important is we must get women students to be more confident in their technical abilities. And I don't, like we say, the industry, or our lady engineers staying in industry, it is affected by their experiences at university. And the same will go definitely if we think about getting ladies into engineering classes at university. We need to think about assisting them way earlier in schools. When we do marketing strategies, we realize that going to schools and going to grade 12 learners, trying to get them involved in engineering is really not ideal. We want to start earlier. And what we've seen now, and I just want to share something with you, which is maybe a bit of a I don't want to make you all sad after my presentation, but what we've seen this week, a lot of statistics came out now, where in Gauteng, which is the province that I live in and the University of Johannesburg is, we've seen a massive amount, it was logged, of teen pregnancies, girls in school. There were more than 23,000 girls in school who got pregnant in this last year. And I mean, if you see these things, then you kind of wonder where STEM education for little girls fall into the equation. And it's just a staggering thing to think about. And I don't have an answer, but now we want to go into schools and teach girls robotics when we've got these major social things to think about. So yeah, there are some still great things that we see in engineering, but I think the challenges are still very, very massive. I want to thank you. I apologize for going over time. I didn't hear the bell.
It's fine, Sunny.
This is me. Thank you so much.
No, you speak with passion, and when you speak with passion, time sort of disappears. But thank you for sharing these insights. I mean, it is quite shocking that 4% of women in South Africa, and probably not even talking about the racial background of them, are women. So that is a big problem.